Okay guys, so let's do this. I want to start off with calories in versus calories out, because that is definitely something that is discussed quite a bit. And it really just depends on what's the context, what are we actually talking about, okay? So for a lot of people either want to feel better, look better, or perform better, right? They want to either lose weight, or they want to gain muscle, right? Or maybe they want to do all of those things, okay? But there's something about calories in and calories out that this is non-debatable, this is scientific fact, okay? There's only one way to lose weight. That is consistently eating in a calorie deficit, okay? So in terms of calories in versus calories out, that would mean that you would basically burn more calories than what you consume, right? Okay? Now, if I look on the other side of the equation, I want to put on muscle, okay? You need to be eating in a calorie surplus in order to gain muscle. Now here's the problem with that equation. Most people get marketed to that they're going to gain muscle, they're going to increase muscle and lose fat. But we just described that we have to do each one of those individually, right, on its own. So you have to think about it. What is your question, or what is your goal? My goal is I want to lose weight. Cool. You have to eat in a calorie deficit consistently. Okay, and I know a lot of you are like, what is a calorie deficit? How do I find that out? We'll get into that. But I have to consistently be eating in a calorie deficit in order to lose weight. But here's what also is going to happen when you're eating in a calorie deficit. How do you think you're going to feel in here? Right? You're going to be exhausted. You're going to be tired. And this is the problem with hearing, just go work out, go work out more and eat less. Because for some people that might be true. But for other people, they might already be working out 5, 6, 7 days a week and just eating salads for every meal or juicing for every meal. And they might be losing weight in the very, very beginning, but then what happens? Right? We all know how this story, and it becomes a negative feedback loop in our head because it's like, God, here I am, I'm in the gym, I'm working out, right? I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing, but yet I'm not seeing the results in terms of losing weight or feeling better or whatever it may be, okay? So when it comes to calories in versus calories out, that equation, it really is true, okay? If you want to lose weight, you have to be eating in a consistent calorie deficit. If you want to maintain weight, you need to be eating at maintenance level calories. And if you want to gain weight or gain muscle, most people want to gain muscle, not gain fat, right? So you have to eat in a calorie surplus, okay? So how do I figure that out, right? Has anybody over here ever weighed their food on a food scale or logged their food on MyFitnessPal or any other app? That's step one, right? Because we got to create awareness around how many calories are you actually consuming on a daily basis, right? So let's just say we logged our food on MyFitnessPal for 14 days, okay? And then we took the average amount of calories for those 14 days, okay? That's going to give us a ballpark as to what we're consuming on a regular basis, okay? Now, if I look day 1 versus day 14, okay, if you gain weight from 0 to 14, you're probably eating in a calorie surplus. Right? If your weight stays the same, you're probably eating on average at maintenance level calories. And if you lose weight, you're probably eating in a calorie deficit. Okay? Does that make sense? Because that part is extremely, extremely important. So what's the only way to lose weight? Regardless of the diet. We could call it keto, intermittent fasting, paleo, macros, blah, 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 blah. How do we lose weight? How do we find out whether or not we're in a calorie deficit?
Weigh our food and food
Right, and if we were using the scale as a data point, we would lose weight, correct? That would let us know that we were in that calorie deficit, okay? So that's kind of that calories in versus calories out. As we dive into macros, we'll go more specifically into how to determine those numbers as well, but I think just kind of overall big picture here, calories in versus calories out, understanding what a calorie deficit is versus maintenance level calories versus a calorie surplus. Okay? And there's a lot of different calculations out there that you can go and do to tell you how many calories you should be eating. But here's what I'll always say, is those calculations don't mean anything until you've actually done your initial assessment, right? Because let's say a calculation says, oh, I should be eating X number of calories. But let's say you were eating way, way, way less than that or way, way, way more than that. what do you think is going to happen when you start trying to hit this number every single day? You're either going to be starving or you're going to be like, oh my God, there's no way I could eat this much.
That's right.
Like, think about how many of y'all have gotten body fat percentage. I know Aaron was just here with Body Analytics. Y'all got body fat percentage testing done. You came out of that tank, you looked at your number, and you're like, there is no way I'm supposed to be eating this many calories. Like, did that happen to anybody?
Mm-hmm.
I talked to 2 people, like, literally right after. I don't think they're here today. But we had that conversation. They were just blown away. They're like, I cannot believe this thing is telling me I should be eating. It was a girl, and she was like, I can't believe it's telling me to eat over 2,000 calories. I've never ate that much in my life. And then we started diving into her individually, looking into her lifestyle, looking into her workouts, and it all started to make sense as to why, okay, like maybe I should be eating this much. And okay, I've probably ate this much many times in my life up to this point. I just didn't know. Okay? All right, so calories in, calories out. Macros. What are macros? What the heck are macros? Everybody's talking about macros these days. Does anybody know what macros are? Yes. What are
It's
they?
your carb, proteins, fats, and water.
Not water, but
Just-
carbs,
just-
proteins, and fats, yeah.
Okay.
So basically, macros, it's just short for macronutrients,
Yeah.
okay? Food is broken down into macronutrients and micronutrients, okay? So macronutrients, that's literally the food that like you're consuming, okay? So I have protein, fat, and carbohydrates. So if anybody's like, what's your macros, bruh? Then you can be like, I just hear this all the time, it's so funny. But if somebody asks you that, then what you would do is you would just know in the back of your head, maybe I don't know exactly what that number is, and we're gonna help you calculate this, but how many grams of protein am I consuming on a daily basis? How many grams of fat and how many grams of carbohydrates? Okay? So I don't wanna make this complex because it's really, really easy, but let's just say if I took 1 gram of protein, that would yield 4 calories. Okay? If I take 1 gram of carbohydrates, same exact thing, it yields 4 calories. And then if I take 1 gram of fat, that actually yields 9 calories. Okay? So let's say, for example, we had somebody and they were taking in 150 grams of protein per day. Okay, so I would take 150 grams, I would multiply that by 4, okay, and that's going to tell me how many calories are coming from protein. Okay, and then I would do the same exact thing for fat and carbohydrates as well. Now here's what people ask, they're like, well, how do I determine my macros? How did we determine your calories? We're going to do the same exact assessment, right? So let's say you log your food on MyFitnessPal for 14 days. And on average, you're taking in this many grams of protein, this many grams of fat, and this many grams of carbohydrates. That'll be a great starting place for you, okay? So regardless of what that calculation is, you gotta slowly start working yourself in that direction. Because again, if I tell you that you're supposed to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, okay? Let's just like use this 150 random number. And based on your 14-day assessment, you're only averaging 75 grams a day. Do you know what's going to happen to you the first day that you try to eat 150 grams of protein? You're going to be so full. Well, first off, it's not going to happen. Number 2, you're going to feel so full and bloated, you're not going to be able to poop for like 3 days. And probably some other things as well. So it just all goes back to, it's the same thing with calories too, right? I want to slowly start working in that direction, and I want to use what we're going to call biofeedback as my assessment to tell me if what I'm doing is working, okay? So here's what biofeedback is, and I don't want to get off onto a tangent too much, but biofeedback are those lifestyle factors, okay? You could literally make a simple Google sheet, and this is like what's in our client folder, one of the things we track, and you can put a sleep category, a digestive category, energy, your workouts, your recovery, your hunger, your sex drive, your mood, right? All of these different lifestyle factors outside of just being in the gym, and I can assess how I'm feeling. So with sleep, how many hours of sleep are you getting on average? Are you having issues falling asleep at night or waking up throughout the night? Digestive, how many bowel movements per day do you have on average? You know 1 to 3 bowel movements a day is what is considered a healthy GI. I know people that come to me and they haven't pooped in 4 days. I know. And so going back to that question with food and medicine, you know what one of the easiest, quickest solutions for that is? Fruits and vegetables. I can't tell you how many people have come to me, stopped up like that, not having a bowel movement for 4 days, and we start increasing their vegetable and fruit intake, and within a week, they're regular, having like 1 bowel movement a day. Like, that's mind-blowing. That's something medication can't do, right? So, as I get off on these tangents, I start to forget where I'm at. But going back to the macro side of it, guys. So, general recommendation here, if I'm like, okay, I'm gonna build out my macros. So for most people, you can just use this. It's super easy. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Okay? Here's the only way that this isn't gonna apply. If you have a lot more body fat or a lot more body weight on you that you're trying to lose, you would not wanna go off of your body weight number. I would actually wanna go off of whatever that lean mass number was that you got from doing body fat percentage testing, right? So if you, let's just say for example, 300 pounds. I have 150 pounds of muscle, 150 pounds of fat. I wouldn't try to eat 300 grams of protein. I would try to eat 150 grams of protein. Does that make sense? But for everybody, like for most people, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that's a great kind of starting point for you. But again, what are we gonna do first? We're gonna assess what we're currently doing, right? Because if Justin up there, that nutrition guy, said I should eat 150 grams of protein, but I'm only eating 50, give yourself the peace of mind. It's probably gonna take months before you can actually finally get to that spot, okay? All right, so that's protein, that's the easy one, okay? Fat intake, most people are eating somewhere between 30 to 40% of their total calorie intake coming from fats, healthy fats, unless you're doing keto. Keto, we're now talking 80, 85%, 90% of your total calorie intake coming from healthy fats. Is anybody doing keto or tried keto? For like really tried keto?
Both of my daughters have. I haven't, but my daughters have.
Okay. So, I mean, those of you that have tried or have had people that have experienced it, I would argue it's probably one of the hardest diets to follow. And I would also argue that most people that say that they're doing keto, they're actually not doing keto.
Right. Yeah, sure.
That's the one you gotta keep the carbs below like 20 or 25.
Yeah, well, really lower than that actually. So you're looking for like less than 5% of your total intake coming from carbohydrates. And even then, that's general because you actually have to check your blood, right, on a daily basis, and you have to make sure that you're actually in ketosis.
Yeah.
So everybody that I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people, right, will be like, oh, I do keto. And then I catch them doing Sunday brunch with mimosas and waffles. And they're like, oh, well, it was just this one day. I'm like, but this is an example as to why this diet is too hard. You don't have to do this diet because I know you're gonna have brunch again in your life at some point. I know you're gonna have a wedding, I know you're gonna, so it's just like, instead of trying to fit ourselves into this like square box, AKA the diet, why don't we step out of that and try to build our own diet that works for us, right? Take all of this information and start to bridge the gap into application, okay? So that's fat. And then carbohydrates, again, that would just be basically, the rest of those calories. So now, again, most people with carbohydrates, they're taking in between like 30 to 40% of their total calories from carbohydrates, okay? So the easiest, the biggest takeaway with macros that I want y'all to understand is macros, all that means is it's macronutrients, it's proteins, it's fats, it's carbohydrates. And how I'm gonna determine how many of those I need is I'm gonna start with my protein first, right? And I'm gonna make sure that I'm getting somewhere around that 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, okay? From there, I'm gonna start diving into my fat intake, and I'm gonna make sure that based off my MyFitnessPal numbers, I'm staying somewhere around that 30 to 40% fat intake. And then I'm gonna do the same exact thing with carbohydrates. And that right there, really what that breaks down to, if we think about 30% protein, right, 30% fat and 40% carbohydrates, which add up to 100, what does that look like on a plate? Balanced, right? Fat, protein, carbohydrate. It's almost like you could think about breakfast, lunch, and dinner and just split your meals up into threes, right? A third of my plate protein, a third of my plate fat, a third of my plate carbohydrates. That, without even having to log my food or do macros or any of that, by the end of your day, you're gonna have a balanced macro, right? You're gonna have a balanced amount of protein, carbs, and fats. So that's just an easy way to think about it. Okay, cool. So before I dive into too much of this, with the calories in, calories out, any more specific questions with that? No? Okay. What about macros? So I want to make sure, I know I just kind of like put up a general statement. I want to make sure I dive into the specifics of it too. Are carbs bad? Absolutely not. Are carbs the devil? No. Is fat the devil? No. I know we lived through the fat, well I didn't live through, a lot of us lived through the low fat era. Now we're in this like low carb era. I guess next you're probably going to hear the low protein era. I mean, I don't know. Like, but it's funny how history repeats itself, right? And you'll see that like through the years, you're going to see all these diets repeat themselves, but just under a different name, right? Okay, so carbs, fats, protein, we feel good about that? So if I call one of y'all randomly to come up here and tell us what macros are, y'all got it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's carbs. Carbs are good. I like carbs. All right, let's go into. Let's see. Where do y'all want to go next? Sleep. So sleep's interesting. It goes with hydration. What are the thing that blows my mind, and this is for myself too, but two of the most important categories that I talked about earlier, those 5 big rocks, sleep and hydration are both on there. Hear me out though for a second. How many people do you think come to me asking about how they can improve their sleep and water versus how many people do you think come to me asking what supplement they should get on? Sleep is free, water is free. I would almost argue sleep, like I have so many people that come to me and they, regardless of the goal, and one of the first questions we do is dive into their sleep, and they're getting 5-6 hours a night every single night. But yet they want to lose weight, they want to feel better, they want to perform better. Guys, if you got in your car right now and you didn't have gas in your car, you wouldn't be able to leave this gym, right? So it's the same exact thing with sleep. Sleep is the #1 thing that helps us recover from these workouts. You're in the gym, you're working out, you're hitting it hard, like you're doing everything. I just saw y'all working out. Like the working out side of things is not the issue, right? But what we have to remember is that, I heard somebody out there and they said, I was up last night, I only got 2 hours of sleep, and I didn't feel that. I think it was something like I didn't feel that great in this workout. Well, I don't blame you. I'm over here, I'm like, don't touch my sleep, it's my non-negotiable, like I get 8 hours every night. But it's funny because my whole life is about to get turned upside down with the little baby, right? So for the next year, I've just kind of gotten in my head that like, I'm probably not gonna get that much sleep. But I also have to know that like, guys, if I'm gonna go work out at 6:30 in the morning and I literally didn't sleep last night, I have to have that honest assessment with myself and say, hey, I'm not saying you can't go work out the next day, but just, don't try to go and murder yourself because you only got 2 hours of sleep. Maybe you just go and you just do things a little bit lighter, you break a sweat, you get the win for the day, you feel better. I'm all about all of that, but if you're somebody that is oh my God, I'm always tired, I feel like I'm always getting hurt, I'm always getting injured, I always have these nagging pains, then you just have to start diving into the sleep and the recovery side of things. Just literally making it a priority to get 7 hours of sleep each night, that would do so much for you. But yeah, 6 to 8 hours of sleep, that's kind of what's recommended. And it really just depends on the person. Some people are fine with 6, some people need closer to 8. But if we're under that number, if we're chronically not getting enough sleep, you can just equate that to you're chronically not allowing your body to recover from training, from workouts. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So what if you feel like you get too much sleep? Is that a bad thing?
Well, we're all jealous then. Can I borrow? You want to borrow some? So how many hours of sleep do you get?
Like 10.
Damn.
Jeez.
I do 9.
That's great.
That's awesome.
I like to sleep.
I mean, at one straight time, you get that much sleep at one straight time.
Well, I take naps. I'll sleep for 8.5 hours, and then I'll take an hour nap, and then I'll take another hour nap. If I get free time, I'll sleep for more and take a nap.
I mean, to the honest truth, I will never, ever, ever tell somebody that they're sleeping too much. I'm like, girl, you keep getting it. Like, at one point, you probably aren't going to be able to, get that much sleep. So it's like, take advantage of it. Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you this, but have you seen the study that came out that said whether you get 7 hours of sleep or 9 hours of sleep, there's really no big difference? Did you see that study that recently came out?
Which one was it?
It basically said whether you're getting 7 hours of sleep or 9 hours of sleep, there's really no big difference or any bigger benefit between getting 7 hours or not, or over that amount of hours of sleep.
I mean, to be honest, I think I think that topic to be brought up right now is phenomenal, which is we have to be really, really, really careful with all of the news stories, the articles, even the research, right? Because this is one of the biggest things I learned in school and like going and deducting through research is like, guys, most people out there, they just read the abstract in the study and then that's their opinion that they go and voice off. So I can find you one study that says one thing, and I can show you, and I can always find another study that says the exact opposite. So I personally haven't seen that one, but I would agree. I mean, I think that again, for some people, like they're gonna get by with 6 hours, and whether they want to or not, that's just their life, right? So I would just encourage people, like, if you're the person, what's the situation? Are you the person that's sitting there, like, binge watching Netflix at night, and that's why you're not getting sleep, or is it just truly because of kids and work and all of these things? And even 30 minutes more each night, like, we're making an improvement, So it's more about when we check into the biofeedback and we see, like, hey, is this somebody that's chronically undersleeping, chronically having issues falling asleep or waking up throughout the night? That's when we really have to start taking sleep serious.
What about if you're a restless sleeper? You might get 8 hours, but it's very restless.
Waking up throughout the night and whatnot. Yeah, that can be so many different things. I'd say on the surface level, like diving into, like a lot of people will be like under eating, that'll be contributing, they'll be over exercising. More so though, I'd actually start diving into more of like the hormonal conversation. So I would be like, when's the last time we got blood work done? We would look into your age, right? Like looking through where we're at in life, menopause, all these different things.
Okay.
But yes, that is something that, if you try all of like the nutrition, lifestyle, exercise, like things, if you will, to help and it's not helping, then that's when we want to dig in deeper to more complex stuff than what we're going into today.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is intermittent sleeping a bad thing?
Intermittent sleeping that's Aubrey Marcus. I don't know if you know him, like One Ed Academy in Austin. That's somebody that talks a lot about that. Aubrey Marcus.
I've never heard of intermittent sleeping though.
Oh, yeah. So
I'm not sure about saying intermittent fasting, but intermittent sleeping.
It's basically like they're starting to look into the research as to, okay, sleeping, without waking up throughout the night for 8 hours versus like segmented sleep. Right? Like, if I can't sleep for 8 hours straight continuously at night, but I can get my naps in throughout the day, like, is that just as good? So, like, that's kind of that's what they're trying to look into and see. But again, it just all goes back to, like, and in my opinion, I think, can you get the uninterrupted sleep? Can you get the 8 hours of sleep, right? Like, that would be, like, number one recommendation. If you can't, but you have the ability to get in naps throughout the day, then absolutely get it. Like, the more sleep we can get, the better. So if you're only getting 4 hours throughout the night, but you can sleep in, or you can get in a nap throughout the day, then yeah, get it for sure. Are you going to be as well rested as sleeping 8 hours throughout the night? I don't know. Like, I don't think we know enough about that. I think we know sleep is important, but I don't think we know enough about the intermittent sleeping patterns there. But it's interesting, right? Everyone's trying to hack the system always. I mean, Aubrey Marcus, like, he's a super, super huge guy in the space, and he talks a lot about it, and he's a big believer in it. So if you ask Aubrey, he would say 100% yes. If you ask maybe another expert, they might have a different opinion. Just like all of this stuff. Cool. Sleep, anything else with sleep? So big takeaways with sleep is it's important. I need to try to prioritize it, and it really helps me with everything in life. That would be pretty much the general statement. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to comment about, I don't know if y'all talked about massage or like self-care or anything, but 1 hour of massage is equal to 8 hours of sleep. So,
I saw that and I didn't know if that was true or not.
I think that's an advertising page, because I tried it.
well, I think
It depends on
First of all, I'm a massage therapist, but number two, I get it, and like there have been times where and I think it depends on the time of the day that you get it as well. Like if you get it like in the beginning of the day, it definitely gives, I feel like for me, it gives me more energy.
Yeah.
And then if you get it towards the night, it helps you sleep. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if a massage being equal to 8 hours of sleep, and I honestly, I couldn't.
Are there receipts for that?
Do what?
Maybe it's like because when you massage, you detox, so
Yeah.
it's like when you sleep, you detox.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go out here and say, hey guys, well, first off, how many of us are going to get a massage every single day? I guess that would be the first thing.
Yeah, it's not saying like every day, but like, you know, it's part of
It's definitely, yes, self-care is hugely important. And like one of the things we look into again, like every single day is, did I do something? Like, did I commit some act of self-love today? Right? Did I do something today that helps manage or address my stress, or something that made me happy? This could be go and get a massage, get your nails done, do whatever, it doesn't matter. But yes, like if you can prioritize self-love, self-care, like that's huge. So yeah, go hit her up, get a massage.
I can attest to that because I got one from her this past week. And
Oh,
invited
nice.
her to the seminar.
Oh really? Yeah, I'm a big fan of getting massages, don't get me wrong. Okay guys, so let's dive in, where do you want to go here next? You want to talk about keto, get it over with?
Yeah, get it over with.
Keto and Weight Watchers.
Keto and Weight Watchers.
Yeah, them two together.
Okay, for the keto, my keto crowd, what specific questions do we have? Yes, ma'am.
So me, I'm just gonna be honest with you and transparent, because that's the only way I know how to be. I just
Love
don't
it.
believe in anything that's not sustainable for your life. And I don't believe keto is sustainable. Okay, all right. So that's why when people ask me about it, I'm like, no, you cannot sustain that for the rest of your life, so why would you do that?
And I heard that it was a lot of putting butter in your coffee, a lot of bacon, a lot
They
of
do, they put
sex.
butter
It's
on
like bad for your blood pressure because you're eating so
This-
much fat.
Yeah.
This is another like extremely valuable point though. Any diet can work, but you can also do any diet the right way or the wrong way. For example, I can say, oh, I'm doing keto and I'm putting butter in my coffee and eating fat, that's still keto, but not necessarily the healthiest way to do keto, right? Like the If It Fits Your Macros crowd is a phenomenal example. I can be on one end of the spectrum with If It Fits Your Macros in terms of all I eat is pizza, donuts, ice cream, candy, blah, 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 but I hit my macros, bruh, right? Or I have the other end of it where it's like, they do, 80% of the time, like they eat really healthy, good quality whole foods, and then the other 20% of the time they eat pizza and like balance, which is most of us are trying to find, right? But they still hit their macros. So, I mean, that's a great point. Is that like I really try to be careful with like demonizing a diet, right? I don't necessarily think there's diets that are like good or bad. I think any diet can work for anybody depending upon their goals. But the question always goes back to, can I do this with anything that you ever start? Ask yourself the question, look at yourself in the mirror and say, can I do this for the rest of my life? And if the answer is no,
Get rid of it.
then what's the point? Y'all all have a million things going on in your life. Like, I'm sure most of us aren't just like solely focused on nutrition all the time,
No.
right? So I want to try to make this process as easy for you as I possibly can, right? And that's where it all goes back to like education and equipping ourselves with the tools that we need to be successful. Let's take the good and the bad from all of these different diets and let's build our own.
Okay, so keto, I brought it up because my sister's doing it currently and her boyfriend, and they've experienced rapid weight loss just like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this is getting such a quick, everyone's taking on to keto because they see such a dramatic effect.
100%.
But I don't know in terms of a nutrition perspective, what's going on here? Why are they losing that much weight so fast?
So check this out, guys. I'm going to blow all of your minds. We just learned about macros, right? Proteins, fats, and carbs. Out of those three macros, what do you think, based off the American population, which one of those macros gets consumed the most?
Carbs.
Carbs, 100%, right? Cool. Here comes the keto diet, because marketing is like, right, we're trying to attack basically this whole entire obesity epidemic. That's what keto came in and did. They took the era that we're in right now, which is carbs are the devil. They removed carbohydrates, the whole entire food group from the diet, right? And they called that keto. So going back to the very, very, very original conversation, calories in versus calories out, what just happened? Why did they lose weight so rapidly?
Took out 9 calories of fat.
They took out all the carbohydrates. So let's say, for instance, let's go back to those equations. Let's just call it 2,000 calories, all right, or 2,100 calories. Let's say 700, 700, 700, okay? So 2,100 calories. Now let's take out carbs. You're now at 1,400 calories. You just created a calorie deficit. You're eating less food. It wasn't keto. It wasn't the carbs. It was the calories. Calories in, calories out. So again, going back to my point, any diet can work. Like we could line up right now and you could come up to me and tell me what diet you want to follow, and I promise you we'll get you long-term sustainable results with that diet. But the reality of it is if I told you you can't eat carbs for the rest of your life, or you have to do things this way for the rest of your life, like, we're human beings. We don't like to be told what to do. Right? Like, if somebody told me I had to do keto, or if I went to some trainer or coach or registered dietitian or nutritionist or whatever you want to call them, and they tried to fit me into this, like, this box, right, and give me my meal plan and say good luck, or give me my macros and say good luck, or a template or an app or whatever, like, that's the missing link, guys. Like, the information's out there everywhere. Any of y'all can go learn any of this stuff. But the magic is in the application of that information, right? The magic is in actually having somebody hold you accountable to do what you actually say that you want to do. Why does this whole environment, why does this community work so much? Why do y'all come and work out?
Accountability.
Accountability, right? You'll have all these beautiful people to come and see. You have your friends, like, you have great coaches, like, the community. That's what wins, always. So.
I had a comment, another thing too, like my macros are 50, 25, 25. 50% carbs, 25% fat and protein, because I eat a lot of fruit. And that's the thing, fruit is, if you put it in your, thing, it's considered a carb. I'm not gonna give up fruit. I'm not gonna ever give up fruit. I love berries, and people hear carbs and they're just like, ooh, but carbs can be fruit and vegetables, you guys. All carbs are not bad, and that's another reason I just do not agree with that keto diet. You tell me I can't eat fruits and vegetables? Well, stop it.
Well, it's just, and you're 100% right. If anybody ever tells you that vegetables and fruits are bad for you, just run the other way as fast as you can. Like, we have so much research showing how good vegetables and fruits are for us. Please show me any research showing that fruits or vegetables are bad for me. Please show me the autopsy report of somebody that died from eating too many vegetables and fruits.
Question on the vegetables and fruits. What about making smoothies out of them?
Love it.
I was told you're better off to chew it. You lose something when you're not chewing versus drinking.
It's all context, right?
Okay.
Like, how many fruits and vegetables are you eating right now every single day? If you told me that you weren't, then I would say, I don't care whether you juice it, whether you make a smoothie, whether you eat it whole, whether you cook it, like, I don't care.
I eat fruits and vegetables all day long.
I love it. So for you, if we really wanted to dive into the specifics of it, like, yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of a loss, right? But I think the bigger question is how many, like, if you wanted to quantify this, how many grams of vegetables and fruits are you eating on a daily basis? Right? And what that breaks down to, most people, like, nobody's ever really put a quantity factor on vegetable and fruit consumption. They did the cups, right? They're like, have this many cups per day. We don't even know what that means. Like, how many of us actually did that? But if you start looking into what it really breaks down to is, let's just call it breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? If you look at your plate, that's gonna break down to filling up about 1/3 to 1/2 of your plate with vegetables or fruits or a combination of both. That's about how you get to 800 grams by the end of the day. And I promise y'all, if there was one thing that y'all did walking out of this room today, it would be get a food scale, weigh out, like, just do it for 1 week. Just create the awareness and learn how many grams of vegetables and fruits you're consuming on a daily basis. Like, I promise you, if you can start off, even if you're at 200 grams or 0 or whatever, just slowly start pulling that number up. And in the beginning, don't worry about whether it's fruits or vegetables or what, like, just do you, get the number up, okay? I think ultimately, like if we could break it down and we could say, 50% veggies, 50% fruits or something like that, like, I mean, I don't want you to take the 800 grams and just only eat fruit and not eat any vegetables, but that would still be better than if you're not hitting that 800 grams right now. So I'm a big, big believer. There's actually, if you go on Instagram, her name's E.C. Sinkowski. She's one of my friends, big in the nutrition space. She created the 800 gram challenge. So you can Instagram it, hashtag 800 gram challenge, and you will literally see hundreds of pictures of what those plates look like. All right? And what's beautiful about it is you're going to start to learn, okay, like higher carbohydrate vegetables and fruits versus higher versus lower carbohydrates and fruits. So you can start to look into like, okay, this is a plate that weighs 800 grams, but it yields this many grams of carbohydrates. Let's call it like the high carb plate. And then you'll see another plate that weighs the exact amount, but only yields, a lower amount of carbohydrates. So with this example would be like, let's take like potatoes, that's a vegetable, right? Potatoes are gonna have more carbohydrates in it than spinach, right? But spinach is a vegetable as well. So going back on that carb idea, guys, like she's actually absolutely right. Carbs are vegetables, they're fruits, they're potatoes, they're rices, they're breads, they're candies, they're sugar, like those are all carbs, right? Yes, ma'am.
How many grams of fruit and vegetables should you be eating a day?
If you could get to 800 grams a day, that would be a phenomenal goal.
What would like minimum, at least?
Well, I mean, I would just say, again, assess what you're currently doing. So like if you did 7 days right now and you're taking in like 200 grams, I'd say, hey, next week let's try to get to 300, then the next week 400, then 500. But I would say at least like half that, 400 grams. Yeah. Okay, cool. Real quick on the keto, guys, I don't want it to make it seem like I actually, there's a lot of phenomenal applications for keto as well. And I'm not saying that keto isn't good or bad. I don't think any of these diets are necessarily good or bad.
There's
So,
a lot of good research out there for people with MS and neuromuscular diseases.
Yep.
That and organic, true organic.
epilepsy is the most researched one out there.
Yeah, but that's what it was created for, not for, yeah.
Right.
But there are people who are wheelchair bound who went on a true keto diet who are now up and walking.
Yeah, there's tons, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I said that, right? Like, there's tons of great applications for keto, but what do most people turn to keto for?
Weight loss.
Weight loss. That's the misapplication, guys. Okay. All right, so let's go into.
Somebody say meal prep since he was talking about scales and stuff.
Yeah, let's do. Where was that? Meal prep. Here we go. Okay, meal prep. What questions do we have about that? Specific ones first? Anything? I think.
Yeah, I had a question. I would like meal prep rice. They would get like stale after like day 2 or 3. Like, how do you keep eating the same thing and it's like still feels like fresh and not?
Yeah, that's tough. I'm spoiled that I work remotely and I typically don't really meal prep. I kind of like cook everything, but yeah, I mean it's a struggle. I think, rice in general, I would look into the way that I guess you were cooking that. I mean, rice should stay good in the fridge for like 3, 4, 5 days.
Are you
for sure.
putting it in individual containers or leaving it all in one big container?
No, I'm doing it in like individual containers.
Are you sure you're cooking the rice like all the way through?
Probably not.
It sounds to me you're actually not cooking the rice all the way through.
Buy yourself a rice cooker. He
I
has
have one.
Oh.
And
I'm bad at rice.
if you have a vacuum sealer, that helps too.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Meal prep though, guys, I think, it's kind of one of those things, it's a journey, right? I remember the first time that I ever meal prepped versus now. Wow. Y'all would literally laugh. One of my favorite things to do actually is when we first start working with clients, we have them do a picture log. So they literally for a week, right before they eat it, they take a picture, they text it to us. But what's cool is in the beginning, right, they see all their food pictures. Well, what happens 6 months later, a year later? We scroll all the way back to those original pictures and they see how their meals have evolved from whatever they were doing to where they are now. And like they're mind blown because they're just like, oh my God, like I can't believe I actually used to like eat that. But meal prepping breaks down like this. How many of y'all have done like a legit attempt at meal prepping for your whole week?
Does it include like the companies that do it for you?
No, you gotta do it yourself. Because the meal, like, so those companies, I love them. Snap Kitchen, all those companies, phenomenal. But what's the question? Are you gonna go buy a Snap Kitchen for the rest of your life?
Absolutely not.
But we can use them, it's expensive, right? But we can use them, like, let's say for instance, we're going on a road trip, or let's say for instance, like, I meal prepped, but I didn't have enough food for that last day of the week, and I came home from work really late. You can just grab your meals for the next day. But really what it breaks down to, and I won't dive super in depth in this, because I want all of y'all, I gave a free copy of the book, our book, to all of y'all, and we go like super in depth on meal prepping in there. So I would just dive into that, and that'll really answer everything. But we have this thing, it's called like 50-minute meal prep. So we should be able to go to the grocery store, knock that out in 30 minutes, come back home, knock meal prep out in an hour, and like, this is a 90-minute process, not a 6-hour process or whatever. A lot of us, and I do the same thing, we like mark up meal prepping in our head as to be this day-long event. I don't have time for that. It's just because we're gonna get better, but right now, we're just maybe not as well versed at it, right? Like, maybe right now the grocery shopping trip takes this long compared to this long. Maybe right now the meal prepping takes this long versus this long. So I think one of the biggest recommendations would be read that section in the ebook. That'd probably help y'all the most. But I think the rules of 5 are great, right? So go to the grocery store, pick 5 protein sources, pick 5 veggies, pick 5 fruits, pick 5 starches, pick 5 healthy fats. And basically from there we can start to build out meals, right? If you don't have a crock pot and you've never like done like crock pot chicken, like get on that. That's literally one of the easiest things you could possibly do. Like this morning, if like I could have done it, I could have put my chicken breast in there with some olive oil, some salt and pepper, let it cook on high for 4 or 5 hours. While I go off and do my seminar, go do whatever I need to do in my day, I come back, I take that chicken out, I can use barbecue sauce or whatever you want, and you literally make like barbecue pulled chicken. And then you can eat on that all week, and it tastes great all week long, and it's so easy. So that's just one example in there. We teach y'all how to make like amazing fillets. We teach y'all how to cook rice. We really dive into all that. So like I said, I won't dive super in depth in that. In the ebook though, like that'll really help y'all for sure. Cool. Let's go to. Let's talk Weight Watchers, because I know we were on keto. All right, so Weight Watchers, what specific questions about Weight Watchers?
Just isn't really a good program.
Have you done Weight Watchers?
Yes, I have.
What was your favorite thing about Weight Watchers, and then the thing you hated the most?
Mostly that I could eat basically whatever I want within a reasonable, because you have points you follow instead of calories.
Sure.
And you could eat your carbs, you could eat your this, you could, and you have to do
So
what.
you love the food freedom.
Food freedom, and I can include alcohol or whatever. I have to still count the alcohol. But
Sure. What did you hate the most about it?
tracking.
The counting
I'm
it?
not real good at
Tracking
counting.
it. Yeah.
Not real good at that.
So, what diet does this sound like, guys? We touched on it earlier.
Just calories in versus calories. Macros.
We're almost there. Almost there. If it fits your macros, right? IIFYM. So that's actually diet. IIFYM, right? But again, history repeats itself. Weight Watchers is from like, I mean, it's still around, but like that's from like a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
But now, If It Fits Your Macros is like the new Weight Watchers. The thing that people love about If It Fits Your Macros is food freedom. They can eat whatever they want as long as it fits their macros, right? With Weight Watchers, it's the same thing. You can eat whatever you want as long as it fits your points. So I would say this. This is basically how I break down every single diet. If we wrote down every single diet on this board, and I literally brought all the founders, all the experts that created each one of those diets, they would sit up here and argue with each other for like 10 minutes. But then this is what we all boil it down to. Food quality and food quantity, those two things matter 100%, regardless of the diet. We have to create we have to create awareness in the quality of food that you should be consuming the majority of the time. And we also need to create awareness around how much of that food, good or bad, that we're consuming on a daily basis, right? So the way that I would, I guess, assess Weight Watchers would be, I think they do a phenomenal job around creating awareness with food quantity. I don't think they don't equate it to like calories and macros, so there is that void that you don't learn. It's points. I think they do a really, really bad job at discussing food quality, because they just say you can eat whatever you want as long as it fits into your points. But again, it's not necessarily that their recommendation is bad. How is it perceived from the client?
Yeah.
Does the client go onto this end of the spectrum where they're like, oh, I can eat whatever I want as long as I hit my points, and they just literally eat cookies, ice cream, whatever? Or they're like, you know what, I'm gonna really try to eat healthy the majority of the time, but if I wanna enjoy something, I definitely can.
Yeah. So that's where I got the smoothie thing from, with the vegetables. On Weight Watchers, you have to count the points, because right now, their program, fruits and vegetables are free, within reason.
Sure.
And, but if you smooth it, then it's not a free item anymore. So that's why I was asking.
Interesting, okay. Yeah.
Because they said you're chewing it, I don't know, I guess burns calories or something, I don't know, but I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, that's really interesting that that they go down that rabbit hole. I mean, really, at the end of the day, you are consuming calories, right? So regardless of the fiber and whether they lost the skin and all these different things they're trying to say, like it's still calories they're consuming. That would be like you going and drinking a 200-calorie juice and being like, oh, it's a juice, it doesn't count towards my calories.
Yeah.
It does. Calories are calories, guys. Okay, cool. What? Anything else on the Weight Watchers side of it? I think, again, I keep repeating myself, but with all these diets, like if you told me that Weight Watchers is, like you love it, it's working for you, you found success, I'd be like, Weight Watchers is the diet for you, like keep doing it, like it's working for you. But if you come to me and you're like, God, I just been doing Weight Watchers for 3 years and I just haven't lost any weight and I really don't feel good, and then it'd be like, hey, well, why are you still doing Weight Watchers, Okay, let's dive into juicing then. So, I love talking about juicing. Guys, my amazing wife over here, I've also learned a lot from her over the years in the field. And the thing I learned is that, again, regardless of whether I know all of this stuff and whether this is like my passion and whether I'm an expert in it or not, we still fall for things that we see, right? And so one day she came home with a $350 juice cleanse. This is like I think I'm done with my degree by this point.
It was before we got married.
Oh, before that? Okay, got it. That's why I married her. Yeah, so she came up with a $350 juice cleanse, and then she, I think, maybe drank like one of them. So what happens? Let's break it down. What happens when you do a juice cleanse? You drink juice. Yeah.
You go to the restroom a lot.
Starve yourself.
So let's keep it real baseline simple. What happens with calories?
A lot less.
A lot less. What typically happens? Why do people typically do a juice cleanse? They do it after the holidays to cleanse whatever happened during the holidays, right? They want to just kind of get started. They want to cleanse their body, want to lose a little bit of weight, just to get the jump start. But why does it happen? You just simply start eating less calories, right? Like if you're eating three meals per day, and now you're drinking 3 juices to replace that, your calories just went from this to this. And that's why you lose weight. Now, is there anything wrong with juicing? Absolutely not. I love juicing. I get a juice almost like every single day. I have this fancy juicer at my house I've never even used. We make smoothies all the time. Like, there's nothing wrong with juicing. Like, it's phenomenal. You're getting vegetables and fruits into your body. Like, that's good, right? But keep eating real food too, right? Like, still eat breakfast and lunch and dinner or whatever meals that you eat, but like, then you can add a juice into your day. Like, think of juicing as like a supplement. Think of eating vegetables and fruits as like a supplement, because that's what it is. Remember the side of the equation I said macronutrients and micronutrients? What are micronutrients?
Vitamins and minerals.
Vitamins and minerals. What do you think vegetables and fruits have a lot of?
Vitamins and minerals.
Vitamins and minerals. And one piece of the puzzle we didn't even talk about that a lot of people forget is not only does sleep help with recovery, but those vegetables and fruits, right, B vitamins, they help with recovery as well. So when people say, man, I started eating more vegetables and fruits and now I have more energy, now I feel better in the gym, now I feel like I'm not as sore. Well, that's part of the equation. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I know you've been holding your hand up.
Okay, because I do a lot of like fruit and veggie shakes together, and my little sister says that there's certain fruits and veggies you're not supposed to mix. Like if I throw like some carrots in there, she's like, you can't. You know, does that matter, or like is it really like, you know what I mean? Like if I do
Is it
carrots,
because she doesn't
celery,
like taste or something, or what?
No, she says that it just they
Like they fight each other or something.
They counteract.
yeah they counteract, or they're not like, oh, you threw carrots in there. I'm like, yeah.
What?
Have you heard of that or
This
no?
is your sister, you said? She your little sister?
She's vegan, yeah.
Oh,
She's smart, actually.
There you go.
We have like an email that we, like I send out like 2 or 3 emails a week to like all of our followers, and I did the tagline this week with "I'm going vegan for 30 days." I haven't gotten this many opens ever. like the open rate on the emails, like it was mind blowing. Yeah, so there, I mean that's factually, like scientifically not true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm like trying to dig into my brain and like find anything, but no. Yeah. Like if anybody ever tells you that, like, I'll back it up. If you ever hear something that sounds just like either too good to be true or just like insane or like just something like that, like I would just literally ask yourself the question, like, you know, either tell them to like show you like the proof, show you the research, and even then like not just one research article but like multiple. But just be really careful, guys, what y'all consume, right? Because like I said, it's out there everywhere. There's so much information. It's information overload, right? And like me and the other RDs on staff, like we pride ourselves on like filtering out the BS in the nutrition industry. Because you hear these things, you know, all the time.
Okay, since we're talking about BS in the nutrition industry.
Yes, a lot of it, right?
Coconut oil, is it good or is it a bad thing? And can you consume it?
Yes, you can consume it.
I mean, like I've heard, so my grandmother has an issue
Can
with
you
dementia.
digest and absorb it?
Well, it's a dementia issue.
Okay.
Okay, and there are all these videos all over YouTube that say if you take 2 tablespoons of coconut oil a day, it reverses the signs of dementia. Everywhere. It's like, I'm like finding all these articles. There's a doctor that's done research on it, but like you said, you have to find multiple sources, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to see, would this even be a good thing or a bad thing? And then I've heard in nutrition news that, you know, coconut oil was highly recommended,
Yeah.
especially with like Mark Hyman and like the high-fat
Yeah.
diet.
I was
but,
literally just speaking on Fox News about this.
and then all these articles all of a sudden come out and it's like high fat is bad, or not high fat is bad, but coconut oil is bad. Do not consume
Yeah.
coconut oil. And I'm like, I cook with it all the time. I love coconut oil.
Yeah. So in terms of like healthy fats and cooking oils, like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, phenomenal resources. I would argue that you never, ever, ever will find just one thing that is a cure. Like I would never sit here and say you having 2 tablespoons of coconut oil is going to cure dementia.
Well, so it's reverse
or-
the signs of it.
Or reverse symptoms, like one,
Yeah.
but like one thing. So this is what people really, really have to be careful with. Like y'all all heard like celery juice, right? That coming around right now. The alkaline water diet. So the guy that created the alkaline water diet, he actually just got sued for millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. So just be really, really careful with what you hear and what you consume, because, you know, like there's a lot of people out there, especially with social media, and they come and they make posts on Instagram or wherever, and most of them actually aren't even qualified to make those types of statements, one. And number 2, a lot of them make these like claims that, you know, some people might not think about, but some people might go all in on. Like the alkaline diet, what happened with her, she had like cancer, I don't remember exactly, something like cancer, and then this doctor told her if she just drank alkaline water every single day, this was going to cure her cancer. So she forwent treating it and just did this, and the lady died.
Something that I would like to add.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking a lot about research and things that we see out there, right? That we read. It's not bad that you guys read and that you
make up your mind about different things. But I would suggest is that you actually look at that research and just look at how long it was actually tested, how many people, and just look at in general, if it's a test that just took 3 days versus something that took a whole year, then the results are very, very different. So that's just my suggestion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. I think all research, you just have to be really, really careful with how you interpret it. And more importantly, you have to be really careful with how somebody else interpreted it and then wrote about it or talks about it, right? So I always just tell people, I'm like, you're your own science experiment, right? Like, we kind of have to do our own due diligence, right? Yes, ma'am.
So I know you said that you can't just have too many fruits and vegetables, and one of the reasons why I didn't do keto is because they told me I couldn't eat fruit, and I love fruit. But one thing that somebody did tell me was, fruit has a lot of sugar in it. Is there like a such thing as having too much fruit because it has too much sugar? Is sugar like a super bad thing for you? Do I need to calculate that in my macros too?
So to answer, I guess I'll go backwards. Do I need to calculate? So sugar is carbohydrates, right? So yes, that would be equated into the macros. What was the previous question before that? Second one?
Like, can I have too much sugar?
Can you have too much? You can have too much of anything. So you can have too much fruit, right? I can have too much protein, I can have too much fats, I can have too much carbs. If it's too much for you, the individual. Or if it's like, let's say for instance, you're trying to lose weight, but you're eating, and this probably won't happen, but you're eating just way too much fruit, which is making you go into a calorie surplus. Right? Because it all breaks down back into calories. And that's why I want to make that calories in, calories out such a big piece, because every one of these questions that comes up, that it kind of like goes back to that, right? Like, if you ask me, am I eating too much fruit or am I eating too much sugar, I would just simply be like, hey, based off whatever your goal is, are you, right? But no, I don't think that there's really such thing as like eating too much fruit. I'm sure you could do it, but I want to be scared of fruit or vegetables at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, let's go. Let's see. Dairy. Is dairy? I think the question was: is dairy as bad as everyone says it is, or something like that?
If you're a certain age, you're a woman, it is.
So like anything, right? It just depends on the person. Right? That's why I coach individualized coaching, right? Like that's the beauty of it, right? We have to assess you, the individual. So like when somebody first starts, it's like instead of just saying, hey, like what's your height, your age, and your weight, how much weight you want to lose, what we do is I actually want to take you all the way back to elementary school. I want to learn about your whole entire life up until this point. Because there are so many things, there's so many factors that dictate where you are in this moment. And that's like the biggest piece I try to give people is like the assessment should not just be what MyFitnessPal asked you, okay? Don't treat MyFitnessPal like a coach. Treat it like a tool. Just a tool, that's it. Is dairy bad or good? Just depends on you. I got a food sensitivity testing done, and that's a whole other conversation, but it told me that I had severe food sensitivities to all dairy products. My whole entire life I've had all these dairy products and never had any problems. And so me getting the testing done, and this was like literally like in the last 2 years, so I had like education, but as I started diving more and more and more into the food sensitivity testing, there's a lot of different type of testing, okay? I won't go into that now, but I got scared to death. I was like, okay, I can't have dairy anymore, I gotta cut this out completely. Like, obviously it was extremely hard to do, and then finally I'm just like, I'm not gonna do this. And I stopped doing it, and I went back to exactly what I was doing, and I still have no symptoms. And it just goes to show, it's like, you have to be really, really careful with whether you're getting food sensitivity testing done or food allergy testing done, what types of testing you're actually getting. Like, not all the tests are created equal, I'll just say that. So if you're somebody that's consuming dairy and you're like seeing things like acne, or you're seeing things like all these digestive issues or skin issues or whatever it may be, like, yeah, dairy might be something that you want to look into. It never hurt anybody to cut dairy out for 30 days and just see what happens. Why do you think Whole30 is so popular? Because Whole30 does things like cutting out dairy, cutting out this or that. Soy, and it creates awareness around, okay, I've had this in my life you know, all the way up into this point, I cut it out for 30 days, this is how I felt, and then that could be like a great assessment for you as to like, okay, well maybe, you know, I should consume less dairy, right? Or maybe I do need to actually remove it completely. But yeah, until you've actually gotten like legitimate testing done and you've actually gone through a full elimination diet to prove in fact that something needs to be removed from the diet, that and only then would be when I would recommend it. Yeah. This man.
Is a food sensitivity test like the Pinner test?
Pinner test. I haven't heard of that.
It's like a thing where you like you do your blood and it tells you like, it's basically like if you just eat like certain foods like tomatoes or like, it's a test that tells you like what certain foods could be. Like if you're trying to lose weight and you eat a bunch of salads with tomatoes, like it'll tell you like it could be the tomatoes that you're eating are like not helping you lose weight. Like like it's a test, like a blood test that tells you like, okay, like just because it's a healthy food to everyone else, to your individual body, it's not good for your body. It's
sure.
That's what it is. Is that kind of like a food sensitivity test?
Similar to that, yeah. And so it could be with any foods, right? And some of them even go like really in depth. They'll go into like food dyes. They'll go into like all the different herbs and spices and things like that. So yeah, probably similar. Everlywell, like that's one of the most popular companies that's out there. But that would actually be the company I would recommend not going to. Their food sensitivity testing is not legit.
Can you recommend one then? What's a good food sensitivity test?
Here's what I would tell you. Before I recommended a test, I would recommend you to do the elimination diet, which is free. To get a good test, you're looking between $300 and $500. That's actually like legit. So
That's fine. I mean, I'll pay that.
My daughter was doing the keto diet, and she thought she was dairy lactose intolerant. Well, she's finding out she's more gluten intolerant, not. So she's brought the dairy back in, and it's fine. But every time she touches anything that's potato or bread, it just affects her.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on these days. Like for some people, it might be a true food sensitivity or an allergy. For other people, it might be because they did keto for a year, right? Like you'll see people that will do keto for a year, cut out carbohydrates for a year, and their ability to digest and absorb carbohydrates goes way down. And then when they reintroduce carbohydrates back in a year later, and again, this isn't everybody, but this does happen, they actually have an insane problem with carbohydrates. Their inflammation is through the roof. So that's why it's also scary. Like we don't know what's going to happen to us when we completely remove a food group from our diet for however long. And we know, like, human physiology has not changed. We know what proteins do for everybody's bodies, carbs and fats, right? And so it's a great reminder that cutting anything from your diet completely, it could possibly have negative symptoms. Yes.
I was just adding to that, like, a good way, like, instead of, like, I guess, like, if you are having, like, really severe symptoms, getting a food sensitivity test is probably good for you, but just, like, kind of to reflect, I was, like, bloating for a long time, and I didn't know, like, what am I adding to my diet, or, like, what it was, if I needed to drink, like, teas or anything like that. Well, I started eating, like, a lot of avocado and didn't even think, like, okay, so I removed that, and then the bubble guts and everything kind of went away. So I'm like, okay, so even like conducting your own tests like on yourself is a good way.
Yeah.
Like with dairy and avocado and stuff like that.
I mean, I hear stories like that all the time, and that's phenomenal. Like I work with there's a whole like podcast and stuff on it, but one of the girls I work with, she had, so much pain, so many gut issues, like literally it would bring her to her knees. And what we found out was that it was coming from garlic. Garlic was the number one culprit. She went through a full elimination diet. We got all the testing done, and it came down to garlic. And like literally, by us removing that fixed all her problems.
Wow.
And by symptoms, I'm not just talking about like, oh, I get bloated like every once in a while. Like, no, I'm talking like digestive pain and problems that none of y'all would ever want to experience.
But is cutting dairy out good for weight loss? That's what my question was. Not if it's like, okay, it's not giving me acne or it's not giving me stomach issues, but if I'm trying to lose weight, would it be good to cut down dairy?
If your overconsumption of dairy is making you eat in a calorie surplus, then it would be bad, I guess. Because again, how do you lose weight? Calorie deficit. It does not matter what foods. I could get you to lose weight eating ice cream and donuts every day. But again, for the rest of your life, no way. I'd catch you in 30 years and you would have so many health issues, I don't even know what, like, right? So if like, just think to yourself with any food or any category of food, unless you actually have something legit that's like a problem, then I would never be scared of a food or food group. Dairy is not the reason why you can't lose weight.
Okay. But I think it's like he said, and I tell you guys this all the time, you have to do tests on yourself. What works for you doesn't work for you. What works for you, like for me, when I did the Whole30, I found out that I can't eat soy sauce. It makes my stomach bloat. It makes it disgusting, so I only eat coconut aminos now, but you can probably eat soy sauce. I can't. So again, you have to do tests on yourself. Same with dairy. I dropped the dress size not doing dairy. I mean, I still eat egg whites and stuff, but the cheese, the butter, it's gone. But somebody else can still get the same results and eat dairy. Everybody's different. You have to do these little tests on yourself and see what works for you.
Absolutely.
And like you said, that's why it's called iCoach, because everybody has their own specific
Individualized.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everything we do is 100% individualized. And that's because you're different than you, and you're different than you, and you, and you, and we're all different, right? So yes, I mean, there are people that do experience inflammation from dairy, and yes, if your body is in an inflamed state, that could be something that affects your ability to lose weight, but 9 times out of 10, it's probably not the dairy that's preventing you from losing weight, it's just that you're eating too much, period, like all calories.
Could you say a little more about the inflammation?
In reference to dairy or just inflammation in general? Yeah, so there's foods.
Likely to cause it and
Yeah, so there's inflammation, guys, in the body is essentially caused by stress, right? Now that could be foods, right? Like maybe dairy gives you inflammation, so maybe that's a stress, right? You get stress from working out. We get stress from not getting enough sleep, right? There's all these different stresses in our life, and that's what leads to inflammation. So I think, a lot of people can get caught up in maybe one food or one food group, but really what the reality of it is I think we see the most inflamed states in those individuals that just don't eat good quality whole foods, right? So like let's just call it 21 days, or 21 meals in a week, right? How many of those meals are you eating out versus actually cooking yourself, right? Because for those individuals that are eating out more than they're cooking at home, I promise you, you're eating more processed foods, your body is more inflamed, right? So, yeah, I mean, really, I guess the overall, arching theme with inflammation is just what is causing inflammation in your body. That could be from a number of different factors. That could even be trauma, right? Like somebody dies, right? Like you suffer a loss in your family, somebody gets injured, whatever it may be. Any negative effect on your psyche, on your body, like any stressful event, that is causing inflammation. Awesome. Okay, intermittent fasting, that's another diet. I'm trying to roll through all these diets. What time is it? Does anybody know?
Almost 5 to 2. Right above you.
Oh, wow, okay. Is there any of these that y'all want to dive into,
Intermittent fasting.
Okay, cool. So intermittent fasting, there's a ton of different time windows with this. Does anybody in here do intermittent fasting specifically? Okay. So basically, there's a lot of good benefits that can come out of intermittent fasting. For me personally, it's something that I do basically every morning that I don't work out in the morning, and it's just simply because I feel like I'm in a better mental state. Right? I'm in a fasted state. I'll have my coffee and all morning long, I'm just working on whatever creative that I need to do. Okay, I personally feel better in that state. Now, when I work out in the mornings, I don't do intermittent fasting, right? Because I just worked out in the morning, I want to have a post-workout meal after. Okay, so when it breaks down, most people they do the 16-8, right? So you're fasted for 16 hours, and then you eat. You have an 8-hour eating window. So it just depends, right? A lot of people they say that they do intermittent fasting and they lost all this weight. So again, what happened? Their eating window shortened, right? They removed breakfast, basically, right? So now their calorie intake is lower, and that's what led to weight loss. So if I'm looking at intermittent fasting in terms of like from the mindset piece, right, from the mental aspect, from the focus, then in general, I would say probably most people, they do function better in their work environment being in that fasted state, or at least not having like, not starting their day off with like an orange juice and like a donut, right? Because you get that big blood sugar spike, right? You get a big insulin spike, and so in terms of functionality, sometimes being in a more fasted state or focusing more on like proteins and fats can allow people to have a little bit better kind of focus on whatever that task is at hand. But that's really all intermittent fasting is. It's just there's no factors that you need to dive into in terms of the foods, like the quality of the food or how much of it you eat. The only stipulation is just the window, right? So you have an 8-hour window. There's also tons of other like fasting protocols. You can do a 24-hour fast. You can do, there's tons of them out there. This one.
So with the intermittent fasting, because I know some people I've seen like they think that with that they can eat whatever. Like, oh, I'm just gonna eat pizza and I'm gonna eat this, I'm gonna eat that. Like I know someone who is actually
Just
like
taking
that.
it to the extremes, right?
Right, and my sister's best friend, and we're just like, no. So is there a difference between eating what, I mean, I know the answer, but like, is there, like, are you still gonna lose weight or get the same results if you eat whatever you want in that window versus eating more whole foods and more healthy options?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it would go back to, because you said in terms of losing weight, right?
Yes, and I know the whole calorie deficit thing, but
So if I had an 8-hour window and I ate more calories in that, like if the amount of calories I ate in that window put me in a calorie surplus, then no, just because you're eating in that 8-hour window, it wouldn't make you lose weight.
so it still affects me out with the calories.
Still off, yeah, still off the calories.
Okay.
It's like that's what I think, like I'm hoping gives y'all peace of mind, right? Because I'm hoping that you hear all of these different complex things, but it all kind of breaks back down to the calories in and calories out, right? Because if you eat healthy food or unhealthy food, regardless, that calorie intake in that window, ultimately, by the end of the day, how many calories am I consuming? Whether I do it in 24 hours or whether I do it in 8 hours, right? This way.
This is kind of related to like metabolism and you know, here in this at Orange Theory, it's all about the splat points and like how much calories you're burning in class. And like for me, it's really hard for me to get a lot of splat points for whatever reason. But so does that factor into how many calories you can eat that day? Like if you, like in here, you had 30 splat points, you burned 700 calories. Does that mean you can eat 700 extra calories that day? I mean, that's kind of the big question. And I think it is for me, I feel like I have a pretty low metabolism, back to the hypothyroidism, but so I guess it gets hard to know like how much.
Sure.
Then if you work out, should you be eating more? Like if your calories, let's say are 2,000, but you've worked out and you've burned a lot of calories in an hour,
Sure.
should you be eating more that particular day?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, so I would just bring it back. I'd say, what's the goal? Let's just call it, I want to lose weight. Cool. So then the next question would be, okay, how many calories are you consuming on a daily basis? And based off how many calories we're consuming and based off how much we're working out, are you losing weight? And if not, we need to start diving into it deeper. So I would never go off like points or like any of these things because they're not 100% accurate, right? We don't know that. Like I could never walk in here and be like, I burned exactly this many calories in this workout. We don't know. We can guess.
Yeah.
It's just like MyFitnessPal though. Most, like 99% of people when they first start doing MyFitnessPal, they don't actually log their food correctly. They don't weigh the food, they don't log it correctly. One of the biggest mistakes I see, which is mind-blowing, is people don't put in like cooking oils. So they'll fail to put in cooking oil at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 2 tablespoons of olive oil at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's 600 calories. So you're like, oh my God, I can't lose weight. I'm only eating 1,200 calories a day. And I'm like, really? Like, let's look. 99% of people don't know how to log their food, they don't know how to weigh their food. And it's okay, we never got taught. And that's one of the things that's important. So to answer your question, I would just go back into like, if you're hungry and you feel like if you just started this workout routine and you're like, oh my God, my hunger is just increasing, like it's okay. Like, listen to your body, right? Fuel yourself appropriately, and as you get to the 3-month mark, if you're still not losing weight, then we need to start diving into the quantity side of the equation, and that's when it sucks. It's like, oh, I gotta log my food every day. But you do. You kind of have to make sure that if you're not getting the results that you desire, then you need to make sure that the quantity and the quality side of the equations are accounted for. And if you're eating healthy food, then it's got to be the quantity side, you know? So sometimes the answer is you need to eat more, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's, you know, mostly it's those two things, or other lifestyle things too. A lot of people don't get enough sleep, a lot of people don't drink enough water, a lot of people either don't work out enough or they work out way too much. A lot of people eat, you know, really good quality food or really bad quality food, or they eat too much or eat too less. So it's just like, it's all dependent on the person and just kind of trying to meet them where they are in that journey. Because, I mean, I could probably tell you 50 things that you need to fix, but that's gonna be so overwhelming. I'd rather just say, you know what, this is your #1 problem. Let's start with that, right? Let's start improving that, and then we'll jump into the next thing and the next thing. And then before you know it, you've got your education around all of those different areas, and we've equipped you with those tools to now be successful on your own. This way.
What is the good amount of water you really should be drinking? Because if you look, some things say 8-ounce glasses a day, some say so much per your body weight.
If you can drink, like, I mean, very general, just like that protein recommendation would be drinking at least half of your body weight in fluid ounces.
How many times y'all say that during class, you guys? I say that every class, don't I? I say that every single solitary class. I said, take your weight, divide it by 2. That's how many ounces of water you should strive. I say that every class, you guys.
So she's got it. Just saying.
Okay, going into the cold cooking oil thing, you said earlier that avocado, coconut, and olive, they're good cooking oil.
Love those three, yeah. Those are probably the 3 most
But
common.
then again, okay, if you're trying to lose weight, but you just said that olive oil has 200 calories per two. Like, so then it's like, which cooking oil should you be using if you're watching calorie intake and trying to lose weight?
You're asking the wrong question.
Okay.
Right? It's not about the olive oil, right? It's about the calories by the end of the day. So if you look at X olive or whatever cooking oil, and you wanted to break it down like that and say, okay, well, for 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, it's more calories than 1 tablespoon of olive oil, so I'm going to choose olive oil to cook with.
But these are the 3 best cooking ones you'd recommend.
Right, and just because you're cooking with olive oil versus coconut oil, that's not going to make you lose weight. It's by the end of the day, how many calories have you consumed? Whether you had olive oil or whether you didn't have olive oil.
Okay.
Right?
Fair.
Because then that's what it, like a lot of the questions, like that's what it's leading to, right? It's like, we try to categorize things as like good and bad, but really it's more so, hey, we can make any of this stuff fit and work for you. It's just like, if your goal is to lose weight, we got to make sure we're eating in a calorie deficit by the end of the day.
Okay.
I think if you, if y'all just, the book we have, it's like 100 pages, and I gave it, y'all will get it, it's like, we gave it to y'all for free, but if you just read that, like it takes like an hour maybe, and like, it will just give you such a peace of mind on like so much of this stuff, and I think it'll really explain it a lot clearer, so, yeah. All right guys, I know I've talked forever. I'm more than open to finish out and answer all these questions, but I know y'all probably have stuff to do. Is there anything else y'all want me to knock out on here?
One question. The ebook, are you gonna email it to everybody that came today? Is that how that works?
I'll probably just send it to Courtney, and then I'm sure she'll probably email it out to everybody. Or
Can you do the eating after 6, please?
yes. So eating after 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. Just it's a myth.
Okay.
Eating carbs late at night make you fat. Eating late at night makes you fat. Like whatever these things that we hear that sound like kind of crazy. At the end of your day, from the time you wake up to the time that you go to sleep, how many calories did you consume? That is what matters.